Well, happy New Year, everybody. My goodness, how we got to 2026 already is just amazement to me. But, the calendar does change every year. So I'm not always as enthusiastic as others at this time of year. And January to me is an inward time, it's a quieter time. I don't know if it becomes that way for you, Nancy, but for me, it's you're coming off the heels of a year end and everyone else in festivity mode, celebration mode. I'm not so much. So it sort of seems like a decline for me, like a kerplunk when it comes to January. But I just want to say hello, everybody, from Keep It Spiritually Simple. And today we've got another amazing episode, and we're going to talk about Ascendance with Dr. Nancy. So take it away, sister.
Well, it's funny, now that you were talking about January and the new year, a lot of people are setting goals for 2026, which I think is good for us to sit down. And they always say it's actually even better to write them out as to what goals they want to accomplish in this year. Uh, so it's not just ho hum, another year to go through, but to set goals for ourselves. And we do have a team of spirit guides with us that are here to help us while we're on our spiritual journey as a human being here on the planet in the Earth School. And so it's why not put them to work? They're standing around. They cannot invade or impose on your personal will. Yes, some things are destined, but there is also, personal will in there as well. And so definitely write out your goals you want to set for yourself and accomplish this year. I'm writing my fifth book, so my goal this year is to get my fifth book completed that I've been working on. So, but yeah, I think it's always good and then to keep those as a reminder. Put them in your desk, tape them up on your mirror, just maybe somewhere where you can periodically see those goals. And therefore, it's like, yes, that's right. So it kind of helps stay on target. So I just wanted to throw that out since we're right in the beginning of January. So I hope that will inspire some people and therefore they can accomplish some things this year for themselves instead of just going through it.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And it's interesting. I had a conversation this morning with my guide team, and they always come to me in shapes and colors and movement and so on. And this morning I was like, okay, here's a goal. Start talking English so I understand what it is you're showing me. I need more communication in a way that I understand it. And I know that there's absolutely nothing that I'm doing incorrectly, right? And there's nothing that I need to do to correspond with them in a better way. So I looked at them and I was like, okay, somehow we've got to either upgrade me or get you to a point so that we communicate in a way that I feel is undeniable, right? And
Yeah.
so I think this is a really good time of the year to set your goals to being grounded in the moment and corresponding with the higher self, the guardian team, and the cord of love that comes directly from source to you and you back to source, and then the whole team that's on that cord to help you. And
Mhm.
sometimes we're also in the middle of guide shift team. We're shifting, right? So we could be elevating, and then the new team is acclimating to our energetics and us to them. So we may feel like we're bobbling around in the abyss, but we're not. They're here. And I don't know why that just came through. I think my guides were just trying to tell me, girlfriend, we're here for you. We're just trying to calibrate on a new frequency with you. But you saw us. You could see all the colors and the movement, so just hang tight. So if anyone's going through all of that, I think now is the perfect time of year to set your goals, to communicate better with your love connection of source, whatever that means to you, and then all the team that's attached to the accord for you, with you for now to come through you.
You bring up a really good point, or actually your guides do. Yes, we do have a team and they do shift. There's usually about 10 to 12 on our team. There's about 5 to 6 that stay with us. Those spirit guides stay with us. They're stationary through our entire life. And then the other half of the team shift in and out. depending on what's going on in our life. And I'll give you an example. If someone's in college and they're taking physics or a mathematics class, and that's a real challenge for them, they'll call in a spirit guide that's really great on the other side, who is, let's say, a mathematician or something, and they can come in and help them with that class to open up their mind to understand. And because our guides are always talking to us and whispering to us, and having that inner dialogue is really important, to know they're there and to tap in with them. But to actually put our guides to work is another spiritual wisdom that a lot of people aren't aware of. And so, yes, they're constantly shifting depending on what's going on. Things are always constantly changing in the Earth School here, so they have to be adaptable, and things are always subject to change, you know. So some things, yes, are destined, but other things need to be reworked and shifted around and adapted depending on what's going on the planet at any given moment. So yes, so that is true. We do have them kind of come in and out. And then let's say someone has a newborn child and it's their first one, they kind of feel like, I could really use some help with this understanding of what motherhood is. And so there'll be, mother, some sort of a guide that will step in, who's a great mother and can help with that intuition of, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. They're at the grocery store, oh, I should pick this up. And for the child or themselves. And so, yeah, it's just being open to the inner guidance. We're just not used to that. So I'm glad that you brought that up for people to be aware of that, to kind of tune in a little closer. And that might be a great goal for people, to tune in a little closer to their higher self, their soul, and which is always divine wisdom coming from source. And of course, the spirit guides are definitely a piece of source and are there to help us as well. That's their job. So they signed on. It's a soul contract between our spirit guides and us, so to help navigate the third density, the third dimensional reality.
Well, thank you for pointing that out. I think it's really important. Why that just came up in the middle of introduction, I think it's because somebody needs to hear this,
Yep.
including us, that
Mm-hmm.
someone else needs to hear that. So thank you.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we'll start where we left off, which is on page 6. And again, this is the Ascendance book, and it recently just got picked up on Barnes and Noble online and Walmart online. So now it's not just Amazon, Amazon Audible, and Apple Books. It's now available on those other two outlets, and it went out internationally too, to the brick and mortar stores internationally. So for those of you who are outside the United States, go online, because usually their new books are offered online, and then eventually sometimes they're picked up by the corporate buyer to put into the stores. I don't have any control over that. They kind of control what goes on the shelf, but it's so yeah, it's okay. So the one that I wanted to start with, it's right in the middle, and it says, "Be the master soul. Be the love. Source is watching inwardly. The omnipresence and all pervading power are living within all that is seen and unseen." And this is a great reminder because for some reason we were told that only human beings are the sentient beings that are ensouled, but everything seen and unseen is ensouled, because source is in all and within all and is all. So it's everything from crystals, rocks, plant kingdom, animal kingdom, bird kingdom, reptile kingdom, all the different kingdoms are ensouled at some point and are aware. We're the ones that aren't aware that they're aware. So that's what was very interesting, is that we can actually talk to the plants. And we've gotten so far away from our connection with our telepathic abilities and our psychic abilities, that we can't hear the plants sing to us anymore, but they do sing. And at some point, when our DNA, which a lot of that is coming online now through light codes being turned on in our DNA, that because the planet is getting lighter and lighter and being bombarded with light. And so we have this ability at some point, these abilities will be turned online again. So we'll be able to communicate with the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. And that will be really exciting, to be able to have that connection again with that oneness of life.
I want to
And
bring up something because you just mentioned something I'm experiencing right now, and you talked about the light codes coming online more and more and more. And not only am I seeing them, right? But even when I close my eyes, I'm still getting this flash boom of all this light. And at first, I wasn't sure what was happening. And then I heard it's just light code activations. You're just experiencing them physically. Like I was
mhm.
physically being able to observe them with my eyes open, to observe them and to feel them with my eyes closed. And also, my entire nervous system was quite aware that
Mhm.
there was, and my whole body was kind of vibrating. So is that kind of what we're talking about right now?
Yes, yes. And there's going to be like when a lot of times for me, it's just it's not planned. It just comes. I'll see like the Fibonacci code. It's a circle of numbers. Some people are seeing binary codes. Some people are seeing not just flashes, but they're seeing a spiral of multi different colors, and it almost looks like the DNA, the double helix, but it's in a it's like in a like as a spiral, and it's circling around, and it's just so people are going to be experiencing different things. They're going to be hearing there it's going to be interesting because a lot of people think, oh my gosh, am I hearing voices in my head? And a lot of times that could be your spirit guides trying to get your attention, or it could be your higher self trying to get your attention, because we are being pulled up to a higher frequency. And when you're pulled up to a higher frequency, you're able to hear more clearly these inner guidance systems, your inner compass, to help you. And so you don't feel so alone. You feel more connected to this oneness around you. And so people are going to be experiencing a lot of things normally that we haven't for centuries. But it's actually exciting because that proves that we are being pulled up and becoming more and more fine and rarefied and purified. These bodies, the mind, which is, the personality, the ego, the shadow, all these different aspects of the mind. And those will be becoming more spiritualized and more fine tuned to become really connected, because when we're all connected energetically in a sense where we're not just told this, but we know this because we're personally experiencing it, wars cease. People don't have, because we see the connection with all of oneness and together as called, team humanity. So it's going to be very nice to see as this continues on, especially this year, that people will be experiencing more things, and hopefully will be willing to share them. So that encourages others and not to be afraid, because this is part of that process of upgrading humanity and upgrading our DNA.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying. I know every time I've been experiencing something, I'll hear, yes, you can do a video on it, but I haven't been able to just sit down and do one yet. I have to wait till, the alignment is better to be able to share what it is that I'm experiencing. The other thing I think that's also created is when we're going through these changes, we're going to expect physiological responses. And so mine has more been finding myself in tears for really no apparent reason, just kind of crying, releasing that energetic whatever it is, because it affects the nervous system in a way that I don't understand. But Dr. Nancy, why is this happening now? Is it a timing chain?
We have the photon belt. I don't know if those are familiar with it. They can Google it, and AI is very well aware of this. But through the yugas, we have periods where we kind of come up and then we go down. And the photon belt, as we're going up in the movement of the galaxy and where we are in our solar system within the galaxy, we go closer and closer, and then we move up into the photon belt. And the photon belt is pure light, and it's actually a belt. And so as we go into higher and higher and into this photon belt, I think the last time I checked, it was yesterday, it was 635 miles per second, that we're being hit with photon storms and wind And so it affects our, just our stratosphere and all the different spheres that protect. But and then the CMEs, coronal mass ejections, are coming right straight to Earth. It takes about 3 days to get from the sun to us. And so all this light is coming into us, into not just our whole entire galaxy is being affected with this in our solar system. So we're not the only ones getting upgraded. We have a lot of galactic races that are being upgraded as well. The animal kingdom here, the plant kingdom, the insect kingdom, everybody is getting upgrades because of this light. And so it's that's what's really going on as we go into the photon belt. We're just hammered with light. It just is coming in. There's no way to escape it. So everyone's being affected. Everyone's going to be, there's nothing you have to do. It happens all on its own. And for everyone, and it's interesting you brought up the nervous system, because the nervous system is very excitable during this time because it is being just flooded with all this light. And so that's what they say. Be very kind to yourself, be very patient with yourself, pamper yourself during this time, burn incense. That's very calming. Use essential oils to kind of help if you want to rub them on yourself or smell them. Get out in nature, listen to beautiful music. Classical music is a high frequency. Spiritual spa music is a high frequency. There's actually music that is, I think it's between 500 and 600 hertz level. It's very high frequency. It's very healing and it calms the nervous system. And so that's something that will, help people. And so them just being aware of what's really going on. This is a natural process that we go through in the yugas. And now that we're into the come out of the Kali Yuga and we've gone into the golden age. So that's really what causes us to go into this movement through. Well, we came out of the Piscean age and now we're into the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius is all about enlightenment and being filled with light. And as far as uncontrollable tears is what it's called, is what you're experiencing. And so that is part of this process, because things need to be purged and things have to come up in order to come out. So we have to feel them and experience them in order for them to be released. That's just the way our body is made. We store a lot of trauma, pain, suffering, disappointments, frustrations, anger, all this stuff gets trapped in us. What happens is when the energy comes in, if it's of a very high frequency, it flows through the body very easily. And so it doesn't get trapped because it's of a high, fine frequency and it just slides right through us, goes from the top of our crown chakra all the way out through our feet. And so, but when it's dense, where it's betrayal and it's suffering and it's pain and it's loss and trauma and all this stuff, that is not easily to pass through the body. And it gets stuck into our muscles, our bones, and it just gets trapped in there. And so that's why another thing is massage is another way to work the muscles out, to work this pain out. But it can come out, like I said, through a variety of ways. And sometimes it just comes, the body knows how to just release it. And a lot of times it can be through tears, that shedding, because actually our tears are poisonous. There's so many toxins that is flooded that comes out through our tears. That's why a lot of times when people cry a lot, they get a lot of styes in their eyes because they're so poison. They're so toxic, the tears, because it's releasing a lot of chemicals and in those chemicals and that shedding of those tears is a lot of that pain and suffering. So they always say when you wash your face, use baby shampoo to wash around your eyes, wash your eyelids and your eyelashes and things like that, especially if you've been crying a lot or shedding a lot, or you work outside and that type of thing, because we don't always realize that. But yes, that's a lot of times what's going on for people.
Well, the other thing I've also noticed a pattern when we're going through these shifts, and I also hear it from other body workers, light workers, etc., is an unexplained weight gain. So I'll be like thinking to myself, this is so weird that I feel 20 pounds heavier and the scale says it. it's just bizarre. But there's sometimes I feel like I have to be meatier, like physically meatier, in order to ground and process the energy. So I don't get mad about the weight gain anymore, right? I
Mhm.
just feel like that is something that I personally experience. And I think there's others that I have heard say, I don't know what happened, but boom, I haven't that I'm aware of changed anything and I feel heavier. So does that make sense during
It
this
does. Yeah.
photon
I mean,
and all that?
it is. There's a lot of fluctuation in our emotions, in our physical form. It is going through a lot of physiological and emotional and mental changes right now. Things will eventually settle down, but this isn't going to go away anytime soon. I mean, we're going to be continuing this for several years. We're just have been, it's I think it was 1985 or 87 was the convergence, the harmonic
87.
conversion,
Mhm.
87. And so that's really when it really kicked in. And so we've been slowly, but now it's just picked up. In fact, yesterday was a 15-hour blackout for the Schumann's residence. And we talked about that in a prior
Mhm.
episode. That means that it was so high that the instruments shut down. It got so high they can't even record it. And so when they have a total blackout, that means it's just off the chart. I mean, it's off the ability for the instruments to be able to even record it. And so a lot of people have ringing in their ears, insomnia, their eating habits are changing. Let the body do what it needs to do. Some people are going to be craving a lot of protein. Even if you're a vegan, eat lots of peas. Peas are high in protein, almond butter, all different nut butters and things of that nature. But so I've been craving a lot of protein for some reason. And then I'll get to a point where it wants a lot of liquids. So I'll do like juicing. So just let the body do what it's kind of like what you're craving or what you need is it's telling us, and it has its own intelligence, our body does. So allow the body to just do what it needs to do during this time of transition. And so a lot of people thought, well, we're in the shift, and well, the shift happens not just spiritually, but it actually, we're spirits in physical form. And so it's also going to affect our physical form. And so in the golden era, people lived 100,000 years. In the silver age, yuga, it was 10,000 years. And then in the Bronze Age, it was 1,000 years. And then in the Kali Yuga, which is the Iron Age, one we just came out of, we live 100 years. So it steps down each time. But now we're moving because we're going into the photon belt, and that we're in the age of Aquarius, and we're also going into now we're in the beginning of the golden era. And so this is where we have this shift in consciousness, because in the golden era, about, I think it was like 85% of the population, it's all about spirituality. Their whole purpose for coming here is to reach these very fine, high frequencies. And in the Kali Yuga, it's at the lowest point. I think it's like 20% of the souls that come here because it's so dark and dense. And so, but now we're going to have a lot more souls incarnating at a very high frequency. That's their goal, is just pure spirituality, to get up to these higher frequencies as high as possible so they can slide in when they get done with this life into these rarefied fields, planes of existence, these upper dimensions. So but so yeah, there's going to be more and more people turning towards spirituality, asking the bigger questions, tuning in, wanting to know what's going on. Things are changing. And so when things change like this, it affects our systems, our monetary system, our political system, our spiritual systems, our educational systems, you name it, in all levels. The corruption has to end, because as you're going into a higher frequency, you just can't, these corrupted systems can't sustain themselves at a very high frequency. And it's going to have to, it will be forced to change. It may be a little more gradual than we want, but it's happening. I mean, a lot of upgrades are happening at night. And so they wake up in the morning and they see things completely different because they are being upgraded at night. The light codes are being turned on in our DNA. And so now people are more open to be able to see things at a much higher viewpoint. And what was acceptable before, people say, well, that's not acceptable anymore. War isn't acceptable anymore. Poverty isn't acceptable anymore. Corruption isn't acceptable anymore. And people won't tolerate it anymore. They just won't. And so therefore the governments go, well, we can't force people to go to war anymore. We can't force them to do this anymore. We can't force this and force it. And so and even within these different systems, they wake up and realize things have to change because we're at a point of getting close to a breaking point here. Even our grid, our electrical grid is maxed out. And so our factories and things are going to have to go on free energy because they can't tap into the grid anymore. It can't take on anymore. So that's a good thing because now we'll start to get into this free energy. And they're not talking about it, but a lot of these huge factories, especially AI, requires a ton of electricity, of power. And they can't just plug into the grid because it'll shut the whole grid down. So I believe they're using a lot of this free energy in these big factories because they can't tap in once they build these factories.
Yeah, and that is like makes a lot of sense because I've been hearing that about this coming and coming and coming. And so I think we're here in the here and now that it's occurring, so much so that we can't deny it anymore. And the other thing I think the energies are doing on a human level is it is yo-yoing the hormones. And so while you were talking, I was thinking, like when you were saying, well, maybe your body's craving something and, eat it or whatever, ask your body what it needs. And I've been eating some things that are very out of character for me. And while you were talking, I was hearing dopamine, serotonin, dopamine,
Mm.
serotonin. So every time you go to eat something, ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to achieve? What is this food? Once I put it in my mouth, what is it going to do? Dopamine, serotonin, right? And
Mhm.
is this the healthiest choice? And can you maybe put that down and create a dopamine or serotonin response without the food? So I don't know. That just came through. So it was interesting. So
It's
anyway.
interesting you brought that up because now we're talking about botanical medicine. And we're going to be
Oh,
getting off of the pharmaceuticals because they don't work as well as the botanical medicine. And that is because we literally have receptors in the brain for every plant essence on
yes.
this planet. We don't have yes, they're chemical receptors and stuff, but it's not conducive to we're biological and so are these plants. And so when you're just putting pure chemicals, a lot of times that's why it's the body rejects it. We have all these side effects and whatnot, and it's counterproductive. So now we're going to be moving into botanical medicine, and that's where, of course, the plant teachers come in, as well as the plant kingdom come in to getting more of homeopathy, Ayurvedic, all these different plant essences, Bach flower essences, and also a lot of other botanicals that'll be combined together. And more and more people realize they are taking supplements, but the best ones are the plant-based supplements. And so it's funny you brought that up because we're going to see more and more of these plants, and that's where I think the marijuana was legalized in the United States because so many people use this plant and as the CBDs and all this other stuff for healing of pain and healing of emotions. It calms people are always in a nervous state because we have so much on us, responsibilities and everything. We're run, run, run. We always have so much on us. And so therefore it helps us naturally release a lot of this anxiety naturally. So we're going to again see more and more legalized. I believe the next one will be psilocybin. It is a mushroom. It doesn't hurt people. There are a number of mushrooms that do not have DMT in it, the psychedelic aspect to it. So it's just for healing purposes. And some of them are just to help with calming anxiety. So it's coming as far as understanding that we have this reciprocity with the plant kingdom and these other kingdoms. And wouldn't it be nice to come into and like a deer comes into your backyard and you could just talk to the deer and pet the deer, and play with the deer and stuff. We used to be able to do that. And we've gotten so far away from that, but that will be coming back. So it'll be exciting time to start to see some of these things happen. But again, it's what happens is first is we need to clean up this corruption, and that it lies within our collective. So, but that's the process that we're in.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So that's kind of wraps up this one that I did. The omnipresence and all pervading power is within all and is all, and that is seen and unseen. And so that's what I really love about this particular book. I took 20 years of my spiritual notes and I compiled them and broke them down into entry format. So people could just flip to any page for guidance, inspiration, and just to pick it up and just read it. And it could just be the morning inspiration or right before you go to bed. But a lot of times these are just so deep. And this was only 2 sentences in this particular entry. But
Yeah.
it was nice. I was led to do this through my spirit guides. They said, we want you to take your notes and compile them, put them into entry form. And therefore people have access to this. So yeah, that's what I really love about this book is we have great conversations just based on the wisdoms that's just within one entry. So
Yes, and I don't pre-read them before you do them. So I'm being sparked, and then this is what's coming up for me, which I'm sure the listeners are going to agree, or it might spark them in a different direction. But I think it just gives us more and more information and things to bounce with. But the key is to expand to the unseen and the seen, right? But we're
yeah,
really expanding to the unseen.
yes. So I didn't know if you wanted to stop there for this
No, I
episode.
think let's do one more. Come on now.
Oh, okay. This one's a little bit deeper. We'll move into this one. The soul's journey consists of overcoming the lower dimensions of physical, emotional, mental levels to be able to experience the glorious realms of oneness. The highest truth is beyond the dimensions of relative truth, which is duality. Absolute truth is beyond all of the dream states of source. The level of source is absolute truth. All right, so why don't we start with this? What's the difference between relative truth and absolute truth? Well, relative truth is truth relative to something else. So you understand night because you understand daytime. And so that's how you can understand the difference between night and day. So, male and female, you understand the difference because you have the opposites there, male and female. And so that's relative truth. One truth is relative to another truth. And absolute truth stands on its own. It is on the upper highest dimensions of where source resides. And I would say some upper planes and dimensions as well, close to source. And so that's where we have where truth, absolute truth, again, because it stands on its own, it's not relative to anything else. It that is what it is. And so when we talk about the absolute truth is beyond all the dream states of source. Okay, this one, um, I some of these are pretty deep, so I just do my best to use the language to in words to explain some of this. But Source is the eternal dreamer. And because we are all aspects of Source, we're a piece of Source, soul is made 100% of pure Source energy. You are divine being because you are Source in physical form. That is your true identity as Source. And so the ultimate goal is recognizing that we are source having this dream. And so what happened was source was by itself and it wanted to experience itself, and so it took itself in another universe, another uh, ability to where it fractured itself into many different pieces, meaning it created souls so it could experience itself through the souls. And the souls come down and they have all these experiences in these different dimensions. And that's how it's able to experience itself through the dream states of, we call, that's why they'll in the East they'll call this the waking dream. You're awake, but you're dreaming. Well, why is you saying this is a dream? It's because when you cross over and make the final transition and you pass away from this life, you go look back and say, what was that? And it's like, well, it was a dream. And because it's not of the highest level, it's duality, it's dual. And anything from the mental plane down is dual in nature. When that's where you say duality and non-duality, well, that's where they say get above the mind, which is now you're in the non-dual states, which is above the mental planes. And that's why on a deep spiritual journey, your mind can only take you so far. What are you going to do when you get beyond the mental states where you don't have your mind anymore? Well, now you have to hop on the power of love, because that's the highest power that can take you into these higher rarefied upper dimensions. And so when we get into the dream states of source, that's what they're talking about is source is the eternal dreamer, and it loves these dramas and all these experiences that we have. And it's yeah, that's it's a hard, it's a very deep truth, because we're not used to looking at it from that perspective. And so this is the level of source is absolute truth, and that is the highest truth, that knowing that us being a piece of source, that we are divine royalty.
Well, as you were talking, I was getting row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And I thought, well, while she finishes that, I'm going to look it up. So I looked it up and it says, Row, row, row your boat is a simple child's song with deeper metaphorical meaning about life, symbolizing persistence, positivity, and going with the flow, suggesting we should row our own boat, quote unquote, life's journey, gently and merrily, recognizing life is a fleeting dream while navigating challenges with a good attitude.
Well put. Yes, that has been, that song is actually, that rhyme has been used by a lot of spiritual teachers, just explaining it exactly that way. And but it's so interesting, because I was given this talk, some of these, somebody spent an entire day, and as I took my notes, they spent all day talking about this, and I compiled it down into like a little couple of sentences to, so that it would be quick and easy, but it's sometimes it gets kind of wordy in some of these talks, but I would just get the high points down, and then I compressed it down into entry form. And so that's, I mean, this really struck me when I was sitting in a spiritual class by a master soul teacher, and they're talking about the dream states of source and how you're in a dream state of source. And that source is this eternal dreamer, and it loves to dream. It loves to have all, we go to the TV and we love a good drama. Especially we love it when we have a movie that makes us cry at the end. You're like, oh, that was a great movie. If it can move our emotions so deeply. Well, Source loves a good drama too. It's like, turn on the Source TV, and it is having all these experiences, these dramas, and all these different galaxies and solar systems. And it's just amazing how that we are a part of Source, and we are experiencing this frolic with Source. And so I thought that was definitely a deep spiritual wisdom. A lot of people don't talk about this too much, but yeah, yeah, it's
Well, as we are awakening and people they're awakening very quickly to what the heck is going on. Everything I think I watched before was blurry and had lines through it and made no sense. But, it's going to come into focus as we turn on Source TV 101. You know, that's what was coming to mind when you were saying that. I'm like, and then dial it up as you move on.
Yeah, actually, the higher up you get into these really close dimensions, and a lot of these upper dimensions are guarded by seraphims and all these different types of angelic beings, and it's that's when you start stepping out of the dream state. When you get into the absolute truth, you get into the oneness, you get in close into the realm, that realm of source. But until you, and each time you move up into a next dimension, it's a little more rarefied, a little more rarefied, a little more higher, a little more higher in frequency. And so you're kind of remembering more, and you're coming back online as to your identity, and just that connectedness, that oneness, understanding and recognize that this it's all really source, and manifesting in different forms. And we're fools because we think we take this to be real, but it's not. And that's why I had this teacher, and I still can hear his voice in my head. He's since left the planet, but he'll say real from unreal. And everyone in the class would crack up because we knew what he was talking about was what you see isn't real, and what is unseen is more real than what is seen, because don't be fooled with the world of appearances. It's just a dream state, and yet we take it to be real because we can see it, we can touch it. And but then what we can't see, what is unseen, we don't tend to take that as really real because it's not seen. Well, it's just not seen by our five physical senses, but that tends to be more real than, and you'll ask anybody who's like a near-death experiencer or somebody who's done ethnogens, crossed over the veil, had their mystical experiences, and then come back into this reality, and they'll definitely tell you which side is more real. And they will always say, gosh, it was so vivid, it was more real than here in this third dimensional reality. And so that's why the teacher will say, real from unreal, know the difference between real from unreal, and don't be fooled by the world of appearances.
Well, while you're saying that, I'm laughing because I'm seeing the TV and you're watching something, and all of a sudden it says, we interrupt this program, your scheduled programming, for a message from Source TV 101. And it's like, it just kind of like changes the channel, and it's an interruption, but it's usually an interruption with news or something like that, right? In real life. But it disrupts the program, right? That you're already watching. So it kind of gives you a little, And so I think we're going to have more awakenings like that. You're
We're gonna
watching a
have more
regular
disruptions
program.
of the program, the
Yes, the
programming.
program. Yes, the program of life, the program of what it is that you thought was real, to actually tuning into what really is real.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that's where the awakening process and these awakening of our DNA codes, the light codes being turned on, is we're being well, now we talk about this, the matrix. You're in a matrix. You're in a
Mm-hmm.
holographic reality. And it's your classroom in the Earth School. And some people have said it's a video game. Some people call it the waking dream. It's all the same thing. This is just a temporary stay that we have here. And some people who are becoming awakened are really realizing, wow, this really is a matrix. It is a holographic reality we call 3D dimension, but it's not the highest reality. There's a lot of realities. And as you get higher and higher up into these upper rarefied dimensions, you start to see that real from unreal. As
Yeah, because it's going to be happening to us individually. It's something that we could see, on sci-fi channels, or we hear someone else explain how they've experienced it, right? So we can only imagine it. But now I think individually, more of us are going to experience it. I know just from my own visual scenes, what I call the sky show, um, are much faster now, and they're much more vivid, like much more vivid for me. So I know that something is changing. I just might not be able to explain it with my human, but I'm okay with that. But then there's times where I'm like, could we accelerate this, please, so I could have a better understanding, so I could explain it to others who are stuck in the same spot I am right now.
Yes.
Let's get this ball on the road. Let's go.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Was there anything you pulled out of that particular entry you wanted to talk about, or?
Well, it's just the absolute truth, which is beyond all the dream states of source. And I don't think that any of us have any real clue what that truly is, because even some of us who've had some glimpses, it's such a bleep, and it does seem like it's not real, like it's a foreign dream that made no sense, and it could be just a bleep, here or there, but we remember that feeling, that
Mm-hmm.
understanding. And so for me, I do not try to get caught up in that loop of trying to figure out my what I think is my dream and what is my reality. I've just asked my guide team to step up and show me more that I need to know. In the meantime, I've got to live my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've got to live my life. I'm the only one in the commander seat. I'm the only one with my hands on the steering wheel and all the devices to get me moving. I can't just wait for something else to reveal itself. I have to be in movement of being successful and healthy um, in my life while learning how to be adaptable and flexible and not hold on to things so hard to be shown to me in my earthly sensories, right?
Yeah.
And that I find kind of frustrating. And that was the conversation that I was having this morning. I'm like, come on now, you're answering my questions and then you're not answering them. And then you're doing it through movement and color. But then I'm going to need to upgrade a little bit more. Or you're going to have to come in here a little bit more. We need to communicate in a better way because I get so frustrated that I just want to say, and I'm just going to say it, I want to just say, fuck it. I got to step out of this. It's too much. Um, and I think in some ways my guides just bang their heads against the nearest cloud and laugh at me because I'm very animated. So I don't know. I know I'm not alone in this
No,
frustration.
you're not. No, no, you're not. I think for a lot of us, light workers, light warriors, it's not fast enough for us. We get frustrated because we see the corruption around and we're like, how can this continue for one more day? I say this all the time to my spirit guys. How can this even continue for one more day? What goes on this planet? It's unacceptable. It is just pure unacceptable. And the source with, the source, my aspect of the true aspect of myself, which is source, I'm saying as source saying out into the cosmos, this is unacceptable in the lower planes for this to continue. And so I don't believe you're alone in this. I think there's a lot of us that's been looking forward to this for quite some years, that we just find this completely unacceptable what takes place here, and that we are waiting for humanity to wake up and take their rightful place as spirit, understanding their true identity as spiritual royalty, and take your rightful place and not just rely on just business as usual, that's just acceptable, because it's not acceptable. We've just been programmed and mind controlled that, well, this is just the way it is. Crime is acceptable. It's like crime is not success is acceptable. It's just not. I mean, there should be no crime against
Yes.
anyone.
Yes.
So it's in crime in many different forms. Like some you get put in jail for, but other crimes that are just as wicked towards humanity, like bulldozing down hectares and hectares of land that kills animals and plants and beings of all kinds, of all different levels. Oh, that's acceptable. You don't go to jail for that. I mean, you can buy off a politician and get into these lands that are protected and everything. I mean, it's just, it's really, I grew up in Florida, and so right now they can't bulldoze everything down fast enough. Well, that's the Amazon for the United States.
Yes.
That wasn't never planned, and most of it's filled in swampland. It was never planned to be as many people that live there. They've got the population almost of Texas. I mean, it just surpassed New York a few years ago in population.
Mm.
So now we got California, Texas, Florida, and then New York. And now we're closely tying in with number two with Texas. It's just, they just can't bulldoze stuff fast enough and build up the houses. But these animals are moving into the neighborhoods, foxes and all kinds of animals.
Hmm.
That are, and it's just messed up the whole ecosystem with the green, red tide, and just everybody has to have green lawns, and so they spray everything, and it's killing the birds, and it's killing the butterflies, it's killing the bees, it's just messing up the whole ecosystem. It's fish
Mm.
are washing up dead on the shores. I mean, I grew up in Florida, so I've seen what's happened over the years, and it's not sustainable. But again, well, it's acceptable to be able to do that. Well, who allowed that to happen? And a lot of Floridians have left Florida because it's turned into LA everywhere. The traffic, the pollution, the crime. I mean, it's just, and I don't believe Florida's the only one that's seen an expansion of population. So I think that there is a way that we can live ecologically with our neighbors, which is the animal, plant, bird, insect kingdom. But we just are not awake enough to have realized how to do this. They need to provide land, like everything that's bought is developed. There needs to be a patch of land where the animals can move and live and in a peaceful existence there. And that's usually what they used to do is you would have a sect, so many acres that was devoted for the animals to be able
Hmm.
to habit. And that was usually like a park or a natural area. Maybe they put a little pathway in there. And now they don't share anything. They just bulldoze it over, pave it over, and it's plant whatever trees, but those are horticultural type trees. They're not the natural trees. And so we've got trees that were hundreds of years old and they're just gone. And those are the wisdom keepers. A lot of trees, people don't realize within trees, they are the wisdom. They are part of the wisdom keepers. A lot of rocks and crystals hold wisdoms. Well, you just bulldozed all your wisdom keepers. So they just, because we're not awake, we're not aware of what we're doing. And so I think with us becoming more online and awakening and realizing and hearing from the guides and from these other kingdoms, we need to coexist peacefully. And so there will be a lot of changes in a lot of different areas coming on because it's just it can't continue.
No, it can't. And I have many of these conversations myself. And, like you're talking about the plant and tree kingdom, there is a whole international web underneath the ground that all connect them. So as you're uprooting them and destroying them in one area, you're disconnecting the web that, of their secret tunnels of how they communicate to protect
Mhm.
Earth from a lower level. And the other thing is, I live here in the Washington, D.C. area. Every single time I turn around, I'm seeing what was like a pastoral, mountainscape is now turning into a neighborhood. And I think to myself, with birth rates declining, where are all these people coming from? And I realize that we're getting some baby boom, but we're not getting enough for us to be destroying the land in the way that we are. And it's we already know the underlying greed and all of that stuff. We don't even have to go down that road at this moment. But what we do need to do is take stock of how we are in this moment and continue to ground ourselves to the seen and to the unseen and start having conversations with our guide teams, having conversations with ourselves, being more in control of this avatar that is the physical God source of you here on this earth. And what can you do in every moment to be compassionate, to be respectful, right? Of the plants that surround us, of the food that we're about to eat, of anything that we're doing. How can we be more respectful? Now, I know, as you do, many of us that are in this line of work, we are no longer more is more, we're less is more.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we've been getting, I've been clearing out closets and unnecessary purchases and not overbuying and not feeling like I'm going to starve, so therefore my pantry needs to be overstocked. Everything is less is more. I don't need. I actually crave less. And yet, when you see the world around you functioning and is more and more and more, I think we have to be able to see that divide in order to step back and disconnect from this crazy matrix and
Mhm.
say, okay, this is unfair, guides. This source, this needs to stop. I no longer want to be plugged into that.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
many of us, like you, are almost waiting on the outskirts now for the rest of this to kind of crumble and unfold so that then we can now step up.
Yeah, the animal kingdom and plant kingdom are saying, when are humans going to wake up?
Yeah.
When are they going to wake up? I mean, they're waiting for us to wake up. And so they're excited about us moving into this new era that we are being forced to wake up. And by turning on these DNA light codes, by awakening, getting these upgrades at night while we're sleeping, so we can wake up and say, and we look around and go, how is this, like many of us, how is this, can't continue. And more people step back and say, this is unacceptable and I'm not going to participate in this, and I'm for change. And the change a lot of times is within ourselves first. That's where the change. We always think, well, we have to run out and be, activists, and that's
Mhm.
great. I mean,
Yeah.
activism is very important, absolutely.
Mhm. But not
But
all of us
also,
do. We're
but that's
doing it
not
in a
the goal
silent
for
way.
everybody, right? And so a lot of, we have to work here first. We become enlightened. Each person, as each person turns on, becomes online and becomes awakened, that's what really changes. So we always think that the change is outside first, but really it's inside. The outside is a reflection of the inside. So when that's why everyone is saying, expand your consciousness, increase your vibrational frequency. As everybody increases their vibrational frequency, everything changes on the outer. But it's happening automatically. I mean, source isn't waiting anymore for us to kind of wake up, and so we're being forced to wake up. This dream is changing. This dream is getting an upgrade, and we're being forced to be upgraded because the dream is upgrading.
Well, once again, Dr. Nancy, I never know where these shows are going to go. And every time I feel like you and I get together, it gets better and better and better, because now I feel like when you read something and then I'm getting something and then I'm going to push it out there and then you're going to pick it up and you're going to just blossom with it. And today was a prime example of that beautiful bounce that you and I
Yes,
have. And I just love having you on. And I can't wait to do this again.
absolutely. I always enjoy being here with you, Sandy.
Oh my goodness. Well, remember, you guys, you've got to go back and look at some of the other episodes of Keep It Spiritually Simple with Dr. Nancy. And you also have to subscribe to get the future episodes. Doesn't cost you anything. Just finger click, 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 like it, subscribe, and then boom, we pop up on your social media and you can listen to us at your leisure. Well, Dr. Nancy, is there anything else you want to leave our audience with today?
Love yourself. Be good to yourself. Be compassionate to yourself. Forgive yourself. I mean, we're hard on ourselves. We really are. Do something for yourself to pamper yourself. Go for a walk in nature today. Go get a massage. Go get some essential oils. Get some incense. Burn some incense. It's really pamper yourselves. This is a big change that we're going through energetically, and energetically means it's on all levels. So that's what I could share with everyone today.
Oh, that's beautiful. Self care is something we've ignored, and it's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. All right, Dr. Nancy, say goodbye to everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode of Keep It Spiritually Simple.